To the Hamza Khan show. Um, Another crazy week of wrestling. Of course, everything kind of going towards the Saturday night's main event, which we've just had, with Monday Night Raw and SmackDown laying the kind of the storylines going towards that match, and then Saturday night's main event being the layup towards the Royal Rumble next week. And first of all, Saturday night's main event was an amazing show. It kind of it brought into play all the stories that we've been building up towards Saturday night's main event, but also it's not necessarily a resolution point, it's more so of a beginning towards the Royal Rumble, but there's so much kind of depth and story in those matches and so much more kind of layers that we haven't been able to get previously, which was really, really good. But also with those storylines, it was still a exciting, engaging show. So that constantly you constantly engage, you're wanting to watch it, you're not half paying attention or skipping parts which are not necessarily you're watching it from back to front, which is I thought it was a really, really amazing show. All four matches were really, really good, and as I said, they encompassed the kind of storylines going towards it. I think the main thing people were kind of zooming in for no reason, man. Zoom in mode. Sorry about that. But anyways, as I was saying, so I think the main thing people were kind of talking about going from Saturday nights, from Monday Night Raw all the way to Saturday night's main event was AJ Styles. That was kind of the revolving story going around every other story, I would say, in the full show. So obviously we found out on Monday Night Raw in order for AJ Styles to get a rematch because of the chicanery win that Gunther got the previous week. In order for him to have a rematch, he would have to put his career on the line in his match against Gunther at the Royal Rumble. Which what I liked was that the fact that AJ didn't go straight away into it. He didn't say, "Yeah, you're on." He actually thought about it. He stepped back, even though he was in a kind of situation where he couldn't say no because of how much he'd been going back and forth with Gunther. There was no way out of it because if he says no, he's a little. Mm, but if he says yes, as shown by how many people came up to AJ Styles throughout Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, just saying, is this the right decision to make? I've said it previously. I don't think when I was predicting who was going to retire AJ Styles, I think previously last year after John Cena was retired by Gunther, a lot of people were saying less AJ Styles might be retired by Gunther as well. But I didn't think that. I thought maybe it would be someone else. It's kind of once Gunther retired AJ Styles, John Cena retiring AJ Styles just it adds to it. But you're like you're going from 100 to 110 comparative to when Gunther retired Goldberg, where he went up by 50, but when he retired, he went up by like 40 or 30, but when he retired John Cena, he went up by 70. And that's because he's presented in such a way so relevant to current kind of landscape of WWE with John Cena being presented as the Never Seen 17, it has so much more impact comparative to AJ Styles getting retired by Gunther. It adds to it, it's an extra name, but if you're wanting to build towards the future, is that the most effective way to use AJ Styles' retirement? Of course, it's such a kind of layered career. So having Gunther beat AJ Styles when I thought previously, I didn't think that was going to be the case. But after the fact of we saw what happened on Monday Night Raw, going into SmackDown, and then also at Saturday night's main event, where we have the match with Shinsuke Nakamura, which was an insane match. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it. I would say it's probably one of my favorite matches of the year, top to bottom. It told a story. It showed the ruthlessness of AJ Styles, showing that he is prepared. So we don't go into the match at the Royal Rumble where Gunther is. It starts with AJ Styles kind of nervous, then it goes to Gunther, obviously, with AJ Styles making a comeback. Obviously, he's accepted that match, saying that let me kick his ass, but everybody around him is very unsure on that fact. But in this match in against Shinsuke Nakamura, one, it lets AJ Styles, in a wrestling point of view, in a storyline point of view, lose those nerves. He's going against a hard hitter. If you were gonna list the hardest hitters, especially in striking, you've obviously got Gunther's chops, but you've also got Shinsuke Nakamura's kicks, which are lethal in its own right. So having a match with Shinsuke Nakamura, first of all, is just that extra layer of kind of warming up towards Gunther in the nicest way possible. But then also um, you've got the fact that they have had that storied career. They've been rivals before in New Japan, going into WWE. They faced off for the WWE Championship before. There's so much layers, there's so much history between them being friends, enemies, and kind of rivals. But then, with it being Shinsuke Nakamura and not someone else, maybe some up and comer, maybe he is going to be retiring at the Royal Rumble. Maybe this is going to be his last match. We've got that preemptive match to please the fans. Then we go into the Royal Rumble where Gunther beats AJ Styles, which, as I mentioned before, it was I didn't think it was going to happen, but now I'm very unsure whether it will be his last match. I'm gonna go with my heart again. Last time with regards to John Cena, it was incorrect. I'm gonna say that AJ Styles does have a way to beat Gunther. I think he does. I think somehow, some way, he's able to get one over on Gunther. And because he gets one over on Gunther, that throws Gunther off in the Royal Rumble, which causes him to be eliminated by someone else, um, which I think would be it. Keeps Gunther away from the championship a little bit longer. Obviously, we want to get to Gunther with the championship. It's gonna come eventually, but if we pull the trigger now, you're kind of you're losing every other story you've built up so far, which is not something we kind of want to do, I would say. So him losing for the story makes sense, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a clear win. It could be AJ Styles outsmarting Gunther. So even though he does lose, he doesn't lose anything in the necessary way. Maybe because from that 100, he goes up from beating John Cena, but then he goes down to maybe 90. But that 10% can be easily gained back comparative to if uh, if he wins against AJ Styles. It kind of lands works hand in hand, I think. So, but overall, that match was insane. I don't like the fact that it keeps zooming in, man. Don't know why it keeps on doing it. It doesn't normally do that. But anyways, I thought that match was insane. With AJ Styles, I really enjoyed the moment at the end of the match with the fist pumps. I thought that was really, really nice touch at the end. It it gave it gave aura, I would say. But obviously, other stories of Saturday night's main event. You've got the women's tag team match, which was really insane. I love Io. I love watching Io wrestle as well as Rhea Ripley. You've got Roxanne Perez versus Liv Morgan. Of course, Raquel Rodriguez got involved, but then the equalizer, because of the storylines that had been built up previously, Stephanie Vaquer came out to kind of equalize against Raquel, and then Io Sky and Rhea Ripley were able to get the win over Liv and Roxanne, which was I really enjoyed, and I thought that whenever it is an EO match, you're gonna enjoy it. You can't, it's like try and find a bad EO match. It doesn't. It, you're not gonna find one. She's that good. So I really enjoyed that match. It made sense for the story going forwards, and then now they're going against Kiana James and um, Julia for the next one. The next opponent, I think they probably will get that victory over Kiana James and Julia, and I would believe that they are going to be building towards WrestleMania, Rhea and Io versus Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss as your big kind of women's tag team match. I think that's definitely got the star power, and you've got a lot of. Sorry, my ears were itchy. We got a lot of star power, and you got story behind it as well, especially with what happened at Saturday nights, not Saturday nights, Survivor Series, with them tag teaming together. Other things on the show, of course, you had the main event of um, um, who was in the main event? I've just lost my head there. Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, and um, Damian Priest and Trick Williams. I thought Trick Williams looked really strong in that match. Randy, of course, as always, looked strong. And then you had Sami Zayn as well, being the eventual winner. I think it made sense. It was a bit predictable that it would be Sami Zayn that would beat um, who would win in that fatal four way to go towards Saudi Arabia Royal Rumble as the number one contender for that WWE Championship. It's something that's eluded Sami Zayn for a very long time, and if he is gonna eventually win the championship, he needs the opportunity towards winning that championship. So I think of the of all people in that match, he makes the most sense on what you're wanting to win, especially with what happened on SmackDown, where Drew McIntyre was talking about his son, and then you saw Sami Zayn slap Drew McIntyre across the face, which he deserves. He deserves a couple from a couple of people. But we'll get to Drew McIntyre a little bit later. But I think it makes sense, and I'm really looking forward to that match at Saturday night at the Royal Rumble because overall it was an amazing match. It kept you on the edge. I think if Damian Priest won, it was kind of the same old, same old. He's not had the moment, even though he beat Alistair Black. It was even though that kind of was over, that kind of storyline, that rivalry, it was it was plateauing a little bit. Especially it brought it back with the ambulance match, but I think a lot of people were kind of, is this still going on? But him winning, I don't think would have had the same effect. And I think he makes more sense being in the Royal Rumble, especially as well as Trick Williams, even though he looked really strong and commentary kind of put him over really well. Um, you want him in the Royal Rumble rather than at the championship match right now at this moment. Off that, you've got Randy Orton. I think it makes more sense for him to be in the Royal Rumble match. There's more, so there's more chaos with him being in the Royal Rumble match than him not being in the Royal Rumble match. Off that fact, you had the talking about Drew McIntyre. He did try and get the attack on Sami Zayn, but Sami Zayn was able to capitalize and kind of won over Drew McIntyre. But that wasn't the only time Drew McIntyre got involved in the night at Saturday night's main event. He was also involved in the crazy, amazing brawl with Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes. They were kind of backed into a corner. I think a lot of people were predicting: do you make Cody lose? Do you make Jacob Fatu lose? Neither of them. Cody doesn't lose often, and especially with Jacob Fatu coming back from his injury, you kind of don't want him to be losing so early. So having that brawl, it was elongated. It was as if it was a match, but it wasn't. All the security guards, I feel really bad for them because they kind of got the hell beaten out of them. But overall, it was a really, really amazing kind of way to start of the event. You're stuck to the screen, you're enjoying it throughout, and then at the end, the person to come to ruin it before we get to a climax between who is going to be the one to get one over each other with Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes. Drew McIntyre gets involved, choke slams both of them through both. One of them through a table, the other one he power bombs them. So really, really sick. Really enjoyed that. I think leading up towards Saturday night's main event on SmackDown, I didn't really expect it would be like this. Every time we saw Cody, he looked a bit off. He didn't look as if he was Cody. There was even when he was shown, he was sitting on the chair. He was looking down. He was going to his boss. He was looking down. He saw AJ Styles to give him good look, but as soon as AJ left, he kind of was in a mood. And I think having that brawl is brought that effect back to Cody Rhodes, and it's brought that enjoyment back to kind of not necessarily enjoyment because you enjoy a Cody match, more so like remember who this guy is in a way, I would say. But really, really enjoyable. I really enjoyed the full Saturday night's main event. It was from top to bottom a really amazing show, I would say. Um, Other things that happened throughout the week, obviously, it was a massive week for wrestling. We had the amazing match between the really insane match with, that really amazing match between Finn Balor and CM Punk. I like the fact that they brought back his old music. It really brought the aura to the match, and it kept you on edge. There were so many times where you're unsure whether Finn Balor was gonna win or whether CM Punk would retain. But throughout that, it was really interesting and really enjoyable how they kind of approached it. Other things I think to talk about was obviously the MFTs winning back the tag team championships. I didn't expect it to be Tama and Sola. I expected it to be most JC Mateo and Tonga Loa or Tama Tonga. I didn't expect it to be Solo winning it, but I like the fact that they won. It made sense. Um, I I was more. I thought it may make more sense that um, if they were able to win the tag team championships but lose the lantern, because of course the White Six are gonna still chase after the MFTs for the lantern. But if you kind of exchange it, you're giving yourself an out of the kind of rivalry, I would say. So, but I like the fact that Solo, when he needed a win, and it just builds him even more. Um, but I think that's all I'm gonna go into for today. Overall, really enjoyed the wrestling throughout the week. As always, if you like it was good, if you dislike it was bad, and remember, no comments. Peace.